Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive with us. Today we're going to be exploring the world of machinima. Using video game engines to make animated films. And you know what? Fortnite is a surprisingly awesome platform for this. So we'll be using excerpts from Big Brother's Guide to Fortnite Machinima. And we've even got a sneak peek at a real machinima trailer just to help you see just how cool this is.
Yeah, what's really cool about Machinima is it makes filmmaking accessible to anyone, really. Like, you don't need a ton of expensive gear or a huge team. You can create movies using visuals from a game you already love.
I know, right? It's mind-blowing to me. And Fortnite is like a dream come true for this kind of thing.
Exactly. I mean, just think about it. Fortnite has these sprawling landscapes and crazy player-built structures, even wild weather effects. It's all just waiting to be captured on film.
And the best part, Fortnite's creative mode lets you build your own sets. Imagine like designing a whole city or a spooky haunted forest,
Oh, yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, perfectly tailored to your story. You're not limited by what the game gives you at all.
Yeah, and let's not forget about Fortnite's massive library of character skins and emotes. You can get so expressive with your characters, conveying all sorts of emotions, from, subtle glances to those big over-the-top reactions. It's like having a built-in cast of virtual actors.
Oh, that's cool. It's amazing how much potential there is for storytelling in Fortnite. Speaking of storytelling, good machinima isn't just about hitting record and playing the game, right?
Absolutely not, just like traditional filmmaking. Machinima needs planning. You need to think like a director, brainstorming ideas, crafting a story with a beginning, middle, and end, and developing characters that your audience will connect with.
So what are some things? Like, what are some things to consider when coming up with a story idea for Fortnite Machinima?
I think you got to think about what excites you. What kind of stories are you drawn to? Maybe you're into action-packed adventures or heartwarming tales of friendship. Whatever your passion is, try to find a way to connect it to the world of Fortnite.
That makes sense. And once you have a story idea, you'll need to create a script, right? What exactly does that involve?
A script for Machinima. It's like a blueprint for your film. It outlines the dialogue, the actions, and the overall flow of the story. It's where you really start to flesh out your characters, create those memorable moments, and ensure that your story has that satisfying arc.
Now, to actually bring the script to life, we need to talk about the tools of the trade. What kind of equipment do you need to get started with Fortnite Machinima?
Well, the good news is you probably already have the most important thing. A decent gaming PC or console that can run Fortnite smoothly. After that, you'll need screen recording software to capture your gameplay footage.
So we've got our gaming setup and screen recording software. What about the audio? You mentioned earlier that good audio is crucial for Machinima.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The sound design can make or break a scene.
Hmm.
Creating atmosphere, building tension, and adding that emotional depth to your story. There are three key elements to focus on: music, sound effects, and voiceovers.
Okay, let's break those down. Music seems pretty straightforward. You just need to find some epic tracks to set the mood right.
Well, it's a bit more nuanced than that. The music needs to match the tone and pacing of your scene. For example, a heart-pounding electronic track might work well for an action sequence, but you probably want something more mellow and atmospheric for a dramatic scene.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. And where do you even find music for Machinima? Can you just use any song you like?
Uh, Not necessarily. Using copyrighted music can get you into trouble, especially if you're sharing your machinima online. You'll want to look for royalty-free music, which means you have permission to use it without paying royalties.
Got it. So royalty-free music for the win. What about sound effects? I'm guessing we're not just talking about the in-game sounds here.
You're right. While Fortnite has some great sound effects, you can take things to the next level by adding your own. Think about the sounds of footsteps on different surfaces, the whoosh of a sword, the creaking of a door. These little details can add a lot of realism and immersion to your machinima.
I can see how those subtle sounds can really enhance the viewing experience. And last but not least, let's talk about voiceovers. What are some tips for recording high-quality voiceovers for Machinima?
Well, first and foremost, you need a decent microphone. You don't need to break the bank. But investing in a quality microphone will make a huge difference in the clarity and professionalism of your voiceovers.
Okay, so good microphone is a must. What else?
Find a quiet recording space. You'd be surprised how much background noise a microphone can pick up. And practice. The more you record, the more comfortable and confident you'll become behind the mic.
Practice makes perfect, right? Now, before we move on to the exciting world of recording and editing, I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier, planning for Fortnite's limitations. Can you elaborate on that a bit more?
Of course, Fortnite, while incredibly versatile, does have its limitations. You can't just magic anything you want into existence. So when you're planning your machinima, think about what's realistically achievable within the game.
So if I want my character to fly through the air, I'm out of luck.
Well, unless you get creative with emotes and camera angles, yeah, a true flight might be a challenge. But that's part of the fun of machinima, finding creative ways to work within the limitations of the game.
I love that. It's like a puzzle figuring out how to tell your story, using the pieces that Fortnite provides. Now, once we've got our story, our script, and our understanding of Fortnite's capabilities, we're ready to start recording, right?
Almost. Before you hit record, there are a few things you need to do to optimize your Fortnite settings for capturing the best possible footage. Let's talk about those next time.
Mm.
All right, so you've got your story planned out, your script is ready, and you're itching to jump into Fortnite and start filming. But before you hit that record button, let's talk about optimizing your game settings for Machinima.
Okay, this sounds important. What kind of settings are we talking about?
Well, there's a balance to strike. You want your Machinima to look amazing visually, but you also need to ensure that your game runs smoothly while recording. Laggy footage is a nightmare to edit.
Oh, I can imagine. So how do we find that sweet spot between visual fidelity and smooth performance?
It depends on your computer's capabilities, of course. But in general, you'll want to adjust settings like resolution, anti-aliasing and shadows. Experiment with different settings and see what works best for your system.
So it's all about finding the right balance for your setup. Got it. Now, once we've tweaked those settings, are we ready to roll?
Almost. You also need to make sure your recording software is configured correctly. Things like resolution frame rate and bitrate all affect the quality of your final video.
Okay, I'm starting to see how the technical side of things can get a bit tricky.
It can be a learning curve. But don't worry, there are tons of resources available online to help you figure it out. And once you get the hang of it, it becomes second nature.
That's reassuring. Now, once we've got our game settings and recording software dialed in, we can finally start filming right now.
Absolutely. This is where your vision starts to come to life. But remember, good machinima isn't just about recording random gameplay. You need to direct your shots, control the camera angles, and make sure you're capturing the action in a way that tells your story effectively.
So we're not just hitting record and hoping for the best.
Definitely not. Think of it like filming a real movie. You're the director, and you need to be intentional about every shot. Use the camera to create dramatic close-ups, sweeping panoramas, and everything in between.
This is where the fun begins. I can already picture myself composing those epic shots, framing the characters just right, and capturing all those dramatic moments.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to experiment with different camera angles and movements. Try using slow motion to highlight key moments, or speed things up for a more frenetic pace.
I love the idea of playing with time and movement. It's like having a whole new set of storytelling tools at our disposal.
And remember, it's always a good idea to record multiple takes of each scene. That way you'll have more options to choose from when you're editing.
Makes sense. More footage gives you more flexibility in the editing room. Speaking of editing, that's where the real magic happens, right? That's where we transform raw footage into a polished machinima masterpiece.
Exactly. Editing is where you take all those individual clips, trim them down, arrange them on a timeline, and add those special touches that bring your story to life.
Okay, I'm eager to dive into the editing process, but first, can we talk about something that's been on my mind? You mentioned SEO earlier. Can you explain what that is and why it's important for machinima creators?
Of course, SEO stands for Search Engine Optimization. Essentially, it's about making sure your machinima videos are easily discoverable online. Think of it like using the right keywords to help people find your content when they're searching on YouTube.
So if I make an awesome machinima about a superhero showdown in Tilted Towers, I'd want to use keywords like Fortnite, superhero, and Tilted Towers in my video's title and description, right?
Exactly. That way, when someone searches for those terms on YouTube, your video is more likely to pop up in the search results.
That makes sense. It's like putting up a sign that says, awesome Fortnite machinima here. So SEO is all about getting more eyeballs on your work.
Absolutely. The more people who see your machinima, the more you can share your creativity and connect with fellow Fortnite fans.
Okay, SEO lesson complete. Now let's jump back into the editing process. What are some basic editing techniques that every machinima maker should know?
Well, first and foremost, you need to learn how to import your footage correctly. This might seem basic, but trust me, a well-organized project from the get-go can save you hours of headaches later on.
Organization is key. I'm all about folders and clear file names. It's like setting up a tidy workspace before starting a big art project.
Exactly. Once you've got your footage imported, you can start trimming clips, arranging them on a timeline, and adding transitions to create a smooth flow between scenes.
Transitions, yes. What are some of your favorite transition techniques?
Well, a simple cut can work sometimes, especially if you want a fast-paced, energetic feel. But for a more cinematic and polished look, I like to use dissolves, fades, and wipes.
Those sound like they could add a lot of visual flair. And what about audio editing? Is that part of the process too?
Absolutely. Syncing up your audio with the visuals is crucial. You want the sounds of footsteps, gunshots, and explosions to match what's happening on screen.
I can imagine how jarring it would be if the audio was out of sync.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And don't forget about adding music and sound effects to enhance the mood and atmosphere of your machinima.
We talked about that earlier. Royalty-free music and well-placed sound effects can really take things to the next level. Now, I'm curious about something. You mentioned earlier that editing can be a learning curve. What are some resources or tips for beginners who are just starting out with video editing?
Oh, there are tons of fantastic video editing tutorials available online, many of them for free even. YouTube's a great place to start. You can also find some really beginner-friendly courses on websites like Skillshare and Udemy. Don't be afraid to just experiment and learn as you go. The more you practice, the more comfortable you'll become with the software.
That's great advice. Practice makes perfect, as they say. Now, once we've mastered the basics of editing, are there any advanced techniques that can really elevate our machinima?
Absolutely. Color grading is a powerful technique that can completely change the mood and atmosphere of your machinima. Think about how different a scene feels when it's bathed in cool blues versus warm oranges.
It's like adding a visual filter that enhances the emotions of the scene.
Exactly. And then there are visual effects, or VFX. These can range from simple things like adding explosions and muzzle flashes to more complex effects like creating custom animations and even manipulating the weather.
Wow, that sounds like some next level stuff.
Yeah.
Are there any beginner-friendly VFX tools that you recommend?
There are a few free and affordable options out there, like HitFilm Express and DaVinci Resolve. That offers a surprising amount of power for beginners. And of course, you can always experiment with the built-in effects and animations, available in Fortnite's replay mode.
So even without breaking the bank, we can still add some impressive visual flair to our machinima.
Absolutely. And as your skills progress and you feel more ambitious, you can explore more advanced software like Adobe After Effects.
Speaking of ambition, let's shift gears for a moment and talk about branding. Why is branding important for machinima creators? And what are some practical tips for building a strong brand?
Well, in a world overflowing with content, a strong brand helps you stand out from the crowd. It's about creating a recognizable identity that reflects your unique style. And the kind of machinima you create, think of it like this. Your brand is your promise to your audience. It tells them what they can expect from your work.
So how do we go about creating that brand identity?
It starts with understanding your target audience. Who are you making this machinima for? What kind of content do they enjoy? Once you know who you're trying to reach, you can start developing your visual identity. A logo color scheme, and overall aesthetic that reflects your brand.
Visuals are definitely important. A cool logo and a consistent style can make your machinima instantly recognizable.
What are some other things to consider?
Think about your channel name, your intro and outro sequences, the music you use, even the way you interact with your audience in the comments section. All of these elements contribute to your overall brand experience. It's like creating a cohesive world that people want to be a part of. Now, I know a lot of people are curious about the money-making potential of machinima. Can you actually earn a living from creating Fortnite machinima?
It's definitely possible. Just like with any creative pursuit, it takes time, effort, and a bit of business savvy. But there are more ways than ever for machinima creators to monetize their work.
Okay, let's break down those monetization strategies.
One option is the YouTube Partner Program. Once you meet their requirements, you can earn money from ads displayed on your videos. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme, but it can provide a steady stream of income as your channel grows.
So building a loyal audience is key for YouTube success. What are some other ways to make money from machinima?
Platforms like Twitch have become incredibly popular, especially for live streaming gameplay. If you're charismatic and skilled at Fortnite, you could build a following on Twitch.
Yeah.
And earn money through subscriptions, donations, and sponsorships.
That sounds exciting, getting paid to play Fortnite and entertain people. What's not to love?
And if your machinima gets popular, brands might even approach you for sponsorships. They'll pay you to feature their products or services in your videos.
That's the dream, right? Getting paid to do what you love and collaborate with brands you admire.
Absolutely. And then there's crowdfunding, where your most dedicated fans can support you directly through platforms like Patreon. They contribute a small monthly fee in exchange for exclusive content, behind-the-scenes access, or other perks.
It's like building a community of superfans who are invested in your success. So there are definitely options out there for making money from Fortnite Machinima.
Absolutely. The key is to create high-quality content that people genuinely enjoy watching. Focus on storytelling, hone your editing skills, build a strong brand, and connect with your audience authentically.
Great advice. Now, before we wrap things up, I want to touch on something that might seem a bit intimidating. Dealing with criticism. It's inevitable, especially when you're sharing your work publicly. How can Machinima creators handle criticism gracefully and use it as an opportunity for growth?
It's natural to feel defensive when someone criticizes your work, especially if you've poured your heart and soul into it. But remember, criticism can be a valuable tool for improvement if you approach it with the right mindset.
Okay, so how do we shift our perspective and view criticism constructively?
Try to detach your ego from your work. See criticism as feedback on a specific project, not a reflection of your worth as a creator. Focus on constructive criticism that offers specific suggestions for improvement.
So ignore the haters and focus on the feedback that can actually help us grow. Got it.
Exactly. And remember, you don't have to please everyone. Stay true to your own creative vision, even if it means some people won't like it.
That's a great reminder. It's easy to get caught up in trying to please everyone, but ultimately the most important thing is to create work that you're proud of.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Now, before we sign off, I want to leave you with one final thought. Embrace the journey. Creating Machinima is a process of continuous learning and growth. Don't be afraid to experiment, make mistakes, and keep pushing your creative boundaries.
I love that. It's all about having fun, exploring new ideas, and expressing yourself through the magic of Machinima. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Fortnite Machinima. We hope you've learned something new, sparked some creative inspiration, and maybe even feel empowered to start creating your own Machinima masterpieces.
Until next time,
Yeah.
keep those creative juices flowing.